reading from the Hekiganroku or Blue Cliff record, case 30, Joshu's quote unquote, a big radish. Main subject. A monk asked Joshu, I have heard that you closely followed Nansen. Is that true? Joshu said, Chinshu produces a big radish. Secho's verse. Chinshu produces a big radish. Monks have taken it as their model. They know only how it was and would be. How can they truly realize the swan is white, the crow is black? Plunderer, plunderer. The monk had his nostrils threaded through. Taichi, every time he comes into Dokusan, will say, I love this koan. It doesn't matter what koan. I certainly feel this way about this one. It's so simple and really so clear. I aspire to the level of mastery of Joshu, and I still have a long way to go. Joshu and so many other of these ancient masters, like Rinzai or Nansen or so many more, Baso, Yakujo, Umon. These are the Chinese masters, and then Dogen and Hakuin. So many have demonstrated mastery in this tradition. Genki Takabashi, our founding abbot, demonstrated mastery in a lot of areas of life. Wonderful cook, a wonderful potter, a wonderful gardener. I know I've told you this story before, but once on the ferry coming back from Rohatsu out at the Kitsap Peninsula at Camp Indianola, Genki Takabashi asked me, do you know that I talk to the rocks and ask them where they want to be placed in the garden? Do you understand? And just after Rohatsu, I immediately remember tearing up and saying, yes, I do. And he just nodded. You know, obviously approaching well over 40 years of Zen practice, I've gained some mastery at this post of abbot. And yet, it's easy for me to see that relative to many or most of the Zen masters in the books that we read, like this Hekiganroku, I have a long way to go, and I'm just beginning. All of us can think of areas in our lives where we have a degree of mastery. Everything from if you know how to ride a bike or swim or drive a car, or mow the lawn or clean the dishes, or work in the garden, drive a bus, or do carpentry if you're a carpenter, or if you're a musician playing an instrument. When we have a degree of mastery in a particular area, then in that area it looks easy, even if it's not so easy, because we have so much practice in that particular area or discipline. And with mastery comes a level of confidence, like I can confidently get behind the wheel of a car and drive it and know with confidence that I'm a good driver. That doesn't mean I won't make any mistakes. It doesn't mean I couldn't be, and I'm working at being even a better driver. I'm confident I'm a good enough driver. That's a level of mastery. When we, almost like a domino effect, have more and more areas of our life where we easily enter what we call samadhi, or harmonious activity with the task that we're engaged in. And we move into samadhi smoothly and easily, and we have confidence in the task we're engaged in. That's mastery. Now, there's always room for improvement, and wherever we are, we're just beginning. But this whole practice of Zen is learning how to have more mastery in more areas. Even the mastery of how to sit still on a cushion, or to breathe slow, regular, gentle breaths. The mastery of moving our bodies with the sway of each other during slow kinhi. The mastery of doing sampai, the 3 prostrations. The mastery of how to do the jihatsu eating bowls. You know, in the beginning, when we're learning something new, it feels very kind of stilted, and we're using our brains in a very analytical way. What's next and what's this step? But after a while, when there's a kind of body memory, then doing the jihatsu bowls becomes kind of like a dance. And we do it in unison with everyone at the table, and it becomes very beautiful. And the whole table, by the end of a sesshin, be in samadhi, masterfully opening and using and closing the bowls up. All of the posts offer opportunity for mastery. Whether you're the enji, the attendant, or the jisha, or the tenzo, or the densu, or the jikijitsu, if you're in that post long enough, with enough mistakes, which is how we learn, and hopefully some gentle but consistent correction, then we're masterful at that post or that instrument. Every opportunity in Zen is another area to become masterful at chanting, masterful at bowing, masterful at the bowls, masterful at sitting, masterful ringing the bells, masterful in kinhi, masterful at gardening, masterful at chopping vegetables, masterful at cleaning. Now, certainly there's more areas in our lives that are more complicated than cleaning or bowing or driving a car. But once we've learned the pattern of mastery, we can begin to apply it to ever more complex endeavors. For example, picking up a musical instrument takes a long time, not an excessively long time if we keep practicing, but a long time to have mastery at a musical instrument, or at some other kind of artistic endeavor. Whether it takes a short time or a long time is inconsequential. You know when you have mastery in it, and of course, at the moment that you have mastery, some confidence at, say, playing some instrument, you also know that you're just beginning, and it doesn't mean that you're, say, world class at it. It just means that you have confidence, you know how to pick up the instrument, you know how to play it, you know how to read some music or improvise, and you feel confident and comfortable and at ease with it. And you're always learning, and that's just the beginning. Joshu demonstrates his mastery of this question by being so quick and so sharp and so natural and so simple and so clear. It may not seem clear on the surface, but it's so clear. You know, when I first began doing koan work, which is an area of mastery, and I was working with ones inside the Mumonkan, I just thought they were incredibly difficult. And when I looked at koans in the Hekiganroku, oh my goodness, that was just beyond the pale. And when I started reading the Rinzai Roku, which is examined after these two principal texts, I just thought, well, that is like, you know, rocket science or something, nuclear physics. And, you know, I can read this and it just feels like gobbledygook. I know there's something there, but it's just way beyond me. You know, today, after 40 plus years, it all feels so simple and clear, and I'm at ease with all of it. Even if my own level of mastery doesn't come up to Joshu, there is a level of mastery that I'm at ease with it, and it feels simple and clear and easy and straightforward, and I have a great deal of confidence that even if I can't work at the level of Joshu, I clearly understand what's going on. So there's another place of mastery in my life besides driving the car. There's much more complicated areas of life than koans or driving the car. All of us know that mastery inside of relationships is very difficult. Mastery with a partnership is very difficult. Mastery with raising children is very difficult. Mastery in your relations with your parents, dead or alive is difficult. But the more areas that we learn mastery, in other words, this ease of doing and feeling confident in that activity, and as we expand the bubble of places over decades that we have mastery, it starts to become kind of infectious. You know what kind of practice it takes to be at that level of ease and confidence. And you can begin to apply the lessons that you've learned in all these other areas to the more complex ones, including, for example, how not to be rageful at MAGA hat Republicans. I mean, for me, I'm still working on this. You know, the ultimate mastery for all of us is how to be simple, clear, confident, kind, and caring in more and more difficult circumstances. Simple, clear, kind, and caring in more and more difficult circumstances. There are many times where it feels difficult to be simple, clear, kind, and caring. Let's say if I'm on the freeway and I just got cut off. Well, I've been working at it and there's room for improvement, but in general, I can do that. I can be simple, caring, and kind in the midst of getting cut off on the freeway. There are many more complex things in life. There's always room to grow, but I think you're getting my gist. I'll add one other thing. Simple, clear, kind, and caring with good boundaries. Now, Zen, in a way, is all about removing the artificial boundaries between self and other. And that's all well and good and needs to happen as part of our practice, that we come to realize that we are the rock, the tree, the grass, the moon, the star, the bell, the incense, and each other, and that there is no separation between ourselves and the people that we love, and between ourselves and the people who are most difficult to love. You know, it's relatively easy for me to have good boundaries in my role as a psychotherapist or as a spiritual director or as an abbot. Relatively easy. I'm not saying there aren't difficulties, but it's relatively easy because I know what the boundaries are, and in general, there will always be some confusion or exceptions. I hold to them, and that makes the love in those roles, the caring, kind, loving presence, much easier because it's contained within the boundaries of the role of abbot or psychotherapist or spiritual director. It's much more difficult out in the world where there isn't a defined role. And yet, I have to know how to be loving and have clear boundaries at the same time. For example, there was this homeless fellow human being sitting out there, and could have been a possible disturbance of some sort for us trying to do what we do here in the Zendo. And he kindly asked, "Do you have a bathroom? I need to clean up." And it was just so easy, even in the midst of our Zazenkai, to say yes. You know, I knew no one else would be using the bathroom. He would have some privacy, and that he could take a pretty good deal of time and make use of our facilities. And so it was easy to say, yes, please come in. And I also said, having some sense of need of boundaries, and then please depart. I said it very kindly, with no sense of irritation or malice, and he picked up on that. And as he came out and we all saw, I asked him if he was hungry, and he said yes. And we brought him some food. That was easy. And he didn't like it. I mean, I think he was very grateful, but he was going, what the hell is this? Because almost none of it was eaten, even though he said he was hungry. But still, all in all, I think the loving kindness with good boundaries worked well in this situation that was a bit more complicated than my role as abbot. Still, not nearly as difficult as having a loving relationship and good boundaries with Carolyn, my wife, or sometimes with my daughter, or heaven forbid, someone who's engrossed in Fox News or conspiracy theories. How do I hold good boundaries and be loving and caring and open-hearted and kind with circumstances that are, in some areas, very irritating? I'm learning. We're all learning, and we all have a long way to go. To demonstrate such clear access to his mastery in this koan. He's asked by a monk, we don't know who the monk is, I have heard that you closely followed Nansen. Is that true? Now, Nansen was Joshu's principal teacher, and Joshu was one of Nansen's Dharma heirs, principal Dharma heirs. So to be a Dharma heir means that the artificial barriers between teacher and student have melted away, and there's a sharing, at least around the mastery of Zen practice. I'm not talking about life, but the mastery of Zen practice. There's a total sharing of heart-mind. In other words, on the same page when it comes to Zen practice and form, and juggling what we call the relative, the absolute, or the transcendent. That it's become very playful, plain, simple, confident, clear, joyous activity. Joshu and Nansen had this kind of relationship. So how is Joshu going to respond? In a way, of course, he can say, I follow Nansen very closely. He is my core teacher, and I have great respect and love for him. Now that would have been answering in the relative. There would have been nothing wrong with that answer. But the monk knows he's talking to a Zen master, and he's asking something beneath the relative question. He's asking, what's the essence of your and your teacher's Zen? What's the essence of your Zen? What's the essence of Nansen's Zen? This is the background question that is being asked. And Joshu must respond, if he's going to do so clearly and confidently and with care and kindness, he must respond to both the relative and this deeper question at once. And he does so immediately and spontaneously and creatively. Ooh. I'm in awe. He says, Shinshu produces a big radish. Now, this sounds like gobbledygook. What the hell does this have to do with Zen essence of Nansen and Joshu in terms of their expression of their deep Zen practice, confidence, clarity, and creativity? It doesn't even say how the monk responded, although the very fact that he doesn't respond, or it isn't recorded, I imagine that this monk was left speechless. Now, he could have been speechless because he had no idea what was being talked about and didn't get it at all. And it was like, I have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about. I don't even know how to continue the conversation. It might have come from ignorance that he was speechless. Or he got it and saw the relevance of Joshu's answer and was speechless at the relevance of Joshu's answer. Either way, he was speechless. So we do have to know at least this much background on this. The notes are very helpful. And so I'm going to read this one note that gives us an insight into Joshu's response. Teisho produces a big radish. Teisho was the very district near the town of Joshu, famous for producing big radishes. Now, think of the daikon radish. It's a very big root. It's much bigger than a big carrot. Big, big, big root. Big, deep root. And Teisho was famous for its radishes, of these delicious daikon radishes. And Zen masters were often in their day given the title. For example, Zen master Yakujo was known as Yakujo because he was the abbot of the temple on Yakujo Mountain. So then he was known as just Yakujo. Joshu was known because he was the Zen abbot in the town of Joshu in the district of Teisho. So now we know that he's making some reference to this radish as the response about his relationship to Nansen and the essence of Nansen and his own teaching. And the koan is, what is he saying about that? And why did he choose to say Teisho district produces big radishes? By the time you get to this koan, I think it will be as easy for you to understand its meaning as it is for me, because you will have already worked through so many koans before you get to this koan. And if it isn't immediately obvious at this moment, it will be, I presume, by the time you get to this koan. It's not difficult. And the follow-up koan would be, how would you say it? You're not the abbot of Joshu in the district of Teisho. So if you were asked, what is the essence of your Zen training in relationship to, say, me, how would you respond? So that becomes the secondary koan. How would you respond? Being who you are in your life. Teisho's verse goes on to say, indeed, Teisho produces a big radish. And this story has been handed down, and many monks have taken this clarity, spontaneity, creativity, simplicity, and caring kindness in this response as their model. They know only how it was and would be. This is wishful thinking, like my wishful thinking, that I could be this clear, direct, simple, spontaneous, creative, with any question you ask. And then, indeed, if I could be that masterful, we would all know with the same simplicity that a swan is indeed white and a crow is black. That's simple. That's simple. That's the level of mastery of Joshu. It's as simple as knowing the swan is white, the crow is black. The water is hot or it's cold. Secho verse says, plunderer, plunderer. This is referring to Joshu himself. Plunderer is almost like saying he's a thief. He, in a way, stole the questioner's thunder. The monk was asking a relative question with a hidden, probably hidden, question about the Zen essence of Nansen and Joshu, and knew that he was asking this question, how will you respond? And both the relative and the absolute with a simple, clear response. And Joshu so nailed it that he stole the monk's thunder. This is what's meant by plunderer, plunderer. And the sentence, the monk had his nostrils threaded through. In other words, there's just no way to respond beyond Joshu's response. It's so simple, clear, direct, caring, kind, and masterful. Isn't that cool? I think it's delightfully cool. Anyway, the biggest koan for all of us is how to be masterful, caring, kind, compassionate, spontaneous, creative, inside of our own clear boundaries, which are kind of like our own ethics, our values. That's what sets our boundaries, our ethics and our values. And how does that apply to this situation or that situation? I don't think there's more to say.